So we're going to start seated as we typically do, just finding that comfortable seat and giving yourself a moment to settle in. So raising the base with block, blanket, cushion, whatever it is that you have in your space today. And if being in easy pose with the legs just crossed, kind of one in front of the other is too much for your system, then you can play with having one leg bent and the other one straightened out or somewhere in between. Sometimes it's nice to sit with the feet to the ground and just kind of lengthen your spine from that perspective, kind of anchoring yourself. So what works for you as you settle in? And really starting to tune into that inner world, that inner barometer almost right away, really dropping in and reminding yourself that it's open permission to do or not do any part of practice. If you feel you want to lean in and challenge yourself a bit more, then by all means, let that happen. And if you just want to step back and take things a little slower, a little more easefully for whatever reason, then let that be your practice as well. From this place, as you complete your setup, your little fidgetings, we start to find stillness and we create this grounding cord to the earth, feeling your sits bones, your tailbone, trying to anchor themselves in. You're getting steady from the mid waist down into the ground, letting yourself get heavy. And as you start to feel this weight drawing down, we also start to tap into length and space in our bodies. Imagining a little string tied to the crown of your head and someone's just picking you up by it, encouraging you to sit taller. It doesn't mean that you come away from your grounded space. In fact, you use that anchor to help you rise up. Inviting just a very subtle tuck of your chin down and back. It's not so far down that you feel like you're cutting off airflow in your windpipe. It's just this little pull back that places those last few vertebrae of your spine into place. And let's purposely shrug the shoulders tight up towards the ears. Roll those shoulders back, squeeze the shoulder blades like they're trying to hug your spine. And then let that go. Shoulders get heavy. Inviting the eyes to close if they weren't already. And let's just take a clearing breath in through the nose and set it free. How does that clearing, releasing breath land in your body? Maybe you feel called to cycle through that a few more times. Welcoming yourself onto your mat, into your practice. And once again, reminding yourself that you have that open permission to do or not do any part of this. And those choices are made by listening to our inner world. Honoring the places of body, heart, mind that might need a little bit of extra tenderness and care today. Honoring the places that may wish for more strength and vitality and channeling energy into those places with your thoughts and your actions as well. And see if you can begin to lengthen and deepen your breath here. Let the belly be soft. And as you inhale, you feel that balloon of the belly starting to fill. And then as you exhale, there's this slow gathering and pulling back towards the center that happens. And the invitation as you continue to deepen the breath is to pay attention to the movement of your navel center. Feel it pulling out and away as you're breathing in, the lungs fill, the belly expands, and then you feel the navel hug in and you keep squeezing and squeezing and squeezing until the breath is all gone. Feel that little contraction. And you'll just continue to work with this longer, deeper breath for a few more moments of very concentrated effort. And keeping that breath flowing, the spine tall, we invite the hands to join at the heart center. Pausing here, feeling the thumbs as they tip back and in towards the breastbone. A moment to honor that place of love and truth and kindness within you. And from this place, you'll come to give rise to the sound of Om 3 times. Taking a nice deep breath in, setting it free. And finding sound. With that sound fading, allowing the hands to come away from the heart. Still tapping into this length of spine. If you need to rearrange your bones a little bit so that you can maintain sitting for just a little longer, please do so. Working with breath and this sense of movement in the abdominals, in the navel center. So we're going to do a slow, more forceful expulsion of air. So an exhale. So this is a bit of a take on Kapalabhati, which is a very forceful pumping. So it's very simple. The integrity of the spine is key. And you take a really deep breath in through the nose, fill the lungs, sit up taller. And as you start to exhale, it's an exhale through the nose as well. As you start to get towards the end of the breath, you squeeze and feel everything hug up and in, almost tucking under the rib cage. And then you inhale, fill the lungs. Exhale, start the slow release. And as you get near the end, squeeze and force it out. We'll do that again. Deep in, slow release, and then pump. Let's do that 3 more times. Two more. Try and keep those shoulders relaxed, face relaxed. And last one. Letting the body relax, letting the breath relax a little bit. Hopefully you feel some fire, a little bit of action happening deep in the core. And let's come into a bit of a butterfly pose. So changing the legs, still raised up on your blanket cushion block if it feels okay. Otherwise, taking it out. And we're just going to do some Sufi circles with those hips wide open this morning. And the circles can be as large or as small as you need them to be. So just working with your body, both the physical body, and then we add in the energetic body. Maybe your energy wants to stay in a smaller range of motion. And the next time that you start to find your taller seat, pause there, take a breath. Do that slow exhale, release with the pump at the end. And then inhaling, take a breath and come around the other way with your circles. Start to slow it down, make the circles a bit smaller if they were still quite large. Find your stillness, get good and tall in the spine. Take that breath in. Slow release with the pump at the end. And then letting that go, finding our way over to tabletop. So you may need to use a blanket to pad up the knees, taking the time to get that in place if you know you need it. Let's fan out nice and wide through the fingers here, wrists underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips as best as possible. And just feel into this tabletop for a moment, slightly tucking the tailbone, looking for that long line of energy in your spine, flat back. From here, fill the lungs, inhaling deeply, exhaling all the way. Still looking for that squeeze at the end, even though we're not inviting the pumping action. 2 more times. And then we work our way into cow and cat. With your next inhale, invite the belly to begin to drop, the crown of the head, tip of the tailbone, reaching up. Exhale, belly button pulls through towards the spine, squeezing all the air out, rounding into cat. Inhaling cow. Exhale, cat. And staying with that cat pose until the breath is all gone. You hit that little squeezing moment at the very end of the exhale. And let's do one more cow cat. Good stuff. If the wrists are tender, just pull the hands away from the mat and give them a little bit of a roll, a little bit of a wiggle. And if it feels okay to put the hands back down on the mat after rolling the wrists, do that. Otherwise, a loose fist or coming up onto tented knuckles will do just fine. So we're going to bring our awareness to our feet, tucking the toes underneath here, just waking up. Feel a little stretch moving through the soles of your feet. And from here, we're going to take that left leg up. Keep the bend in the knee. So we're kicking the heel up towards the ceiling and just as far as you can go without your hips twisting. Sometimes we lift and we get that hip rolling up. We want to stay level here. Engaging through the core. And then we find the external rotation. Turn the knee out to the side as best you can without tipping those hips. Bring the heel back towards the ceiling, kicking up. And then slowly lower, bring that knee down towards the mat. Give the wrists a break if you need to. Tucking those toes back underneath if you had released them. Attention over to the right side now. So inhaling and lifting that leg up just as high as you can without tipping on the hips. Keep everything level, facing the ground. Feel that core working for you. And we externally rotate, so open that right knee out to the right side, just as far as you can go without rolling those hips. Swivel it back underneath where the heel is kicking up towards the ceiling. And slowly lower, relaxing the toes. Send your hips back towards your heels. Take a child's pose here. Wiggle the fingers, roll the wrists. One more breath in your child's pose. Coming back through to tabletop. And then we're going to step forward with the left foot. So we're coming into a 90-90 to begin with. So both legs at a 90-degree bend. Finding that sense of being stable and grounded. So you might need to take your left foot off to the left side a bit to find your ground. Tucking that tailbone slightly. So we're creating that length in the spine again. And then if it feels okay for the shoulders, letting the arms come up and overhead, palms facing one another, upward salute. Soft gaze forward, breathing here. Relax your feet. Don't let those toes of the left foot grind into the mat. From here, bring the palms together if your arms are reaching overhead, and then bend into the elbows. Drop those joined palms behind your head. Chest is tall, gaze is forward. Take a nice full breath in here. Follow it all the way out. And as you get near the end, do that little pump. Hold it for a moment. Pelvic floor lifts, core engages, and then you inhale. Slowly release the hands from behind the head. Bring them down to your side. Feeling, pausing. And then we'll take the hands behind us, interlacing those fingers, knuckles pointing towards the ground, and pull down. So we're opening across the chest. And then we let that go. Bring the hands down to the inside of that left foot so you can do one big step or a little shuffle wiggle movement to get your left knee underneath you. And we'll step forward with that right foot right away. So you're giving that knee some reprieve. Coming back to your 90-90. Finding the stability, the balance, dropping that tailbone. So that's going to pull in the lower abdominals, lightly lift through the pelvic floor already. Tall spine. And if it's okay for the shoulders, we do the upward salute again. And maybe it means you're just pulling the arms forward if shoulders are a little tricky today, or they might have a slightly different angle. Just do what works for you. And with your next exhale, inviting those palms to come and push together overhead in a prayer pose. And then exhaling, dropping the hands behind the head. Keep the head up, chest tall, feel the space. Nice full inhale. Exhaling all the way out and finding that little pump at the bottom. Hold for a moment. And then inhaling, releasing the arms, reach up overhead. Slowly we bring them down to our sides, let them hang for a moment. And then we invite those hands behind us again, seeing if you can interlace the fingers in the opposite direction. Just challenging the patterns we build into our bodies. Again, roll open through the shoulders, draw those knuckles down towards the floor. Tall, tall, tall in the spine. One more breath here. And letting it go. Release the arms, bring the hands down to the inside of that right foot. One big step or a whole bunch of little shuffle wiggles, get everything underneath you. Fan out nice and wide through those fingers. Take your hands a little bit further ahead of the shoulders and a little bit wider on the mat. We're getting ready to lift into down dog. Changing the perspective a little bit this morning. Tuck the toes underneath. As you start to exhale, feel the belly button pulling towards the spine. Use that contraction to hover your knees. Keep them bent and just push the torso back towards the thighs and let yourself wiggle here for a moment. And the further you let your hips drift off to one side as you're wiggling, the more you're going to feel some opening coming into your side ribs, into your hips. So be curious about that. And then we straighten those legs, walk the dog, straightening one leg, bending into the other, and then switching. From here, stabilizing into your down dog, let your gaze come to that space between your hands. And with as few steps as possible, get those feet up to the top to join your hands, come to dangle. Shake out the head side to side, up and down. Soften into those knees. Relax the feet, especially the toes. We don't want to be gripping. And let's bring hands to opposite elbows here. Head get really heavy here. If it feels good to shake out the head, shake out the head. And then we pause. Take a nice deep breath in. Sigh it away. Releasing the arms down towards the ground. And let's inhale, slowly uncurl. Bringing the body up towards standing. Taking your time as you get there. The blood pressure is going to have some time to need to acclimate. Roll your shoulders, move the head, the neck around. What feels good as you start to find your way to your feet? What do you need to feel grounded and stable here? All right, so feet are underneath us, about a narrow hip width apart. Pick up those toes so you feel the weight a little bit further back in your heels. And then see if you can put your toes down one at a time. a lot harder than it sounds. And let them relax. See about bringing weight into your toes, lifting your heels off the mat, bend into the knees, find some balance. Probably a few little wobbles. And then slowly lower those heels down. Find the equilibrium between the weight in the toes and the weight in the heels. Softening in here, we invite the hands to find heart. We'll go through 3 rounds of half salutations. As you're ready, inhaling, arms circle up and overhead in a sun breath. Maybe the gaze follows. Exhale, swan dive. Inhale, come halfway up, flat back. Exhale, fold. Reverse your swan dive. Open those wings, engage through the core, and pull yourself up towards standing. Exhale, hands to heart. 2 more, just like that. Sun breath. Maybe the little back bend. Exhale, swan dive. Inhale, halfway up, flat back. Exhale, fold. Reverse your swan dive, rise, coming up. Hands to heart. Last one. Filling those lungs with every inhale and then working your way through with the exhale all the way to empty. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, fold. Reverse your swan dive, rising. Hands to heart. Pausing in your Tadasana for just a moment. Feeling good and grounded through your legs, reaching tall through the spine. And I'll invite you to step near the top of your mat if you're not already there. So we're going to do 2 rounds of classic sun salutation before we do some more play with that pumping breath. So the hands still at the heart center, Anjali Mudra. We'll take a clearing breath here, in through the nose and out through the mouth. Your next inhale, we find the sun breath, reaching up to greet the sun. Maybe a little back bend. Exhale, dive. Inhale, come halfway up, flat back. Exhale, fold. Bend into the knees if necessary to get the hands to the mat. And then we step our way back into a plank. It might be full plank. It might be you need to drop the knees. Find your fit. And with the next exhalation, inviting knees to the ground if they're not already there. We're doing the 8-point salute. So we're going to shuffle the hips back a little bit, getting ready to dive chest and chin to the floor. Elbows grazing the rib cage, slow and controlled. Exhaling. Seeing if you can get to the ground. Bum stays up for just a moment. And then we release the legs. Roll open through the shoulders, lift the chest. It might be a tiny lift today. It might be pretty high, just keeping those elbows bent. Cobra pose. Take a breath here. As you start to exhale, lower down and out of that back bend. Tuck your toes underneath, finding downward facing dog. You might need to come through table before you lift, or you can just go straight into that down dog. Gaze to the space between your hands. Step your feet through to the top. Finding your fold. Inhale, halfway up. Exhale, fold. Reverse your swan dive, reach and rise, coming up. Hands join, they melt to heart. Let yourself land in your body, land in your experience. Reminding yourself of that permission to do or not do. Did you forget about it? Or did you wisely follow? This is the opportunity to begin again. We'll do one more of that classic salutation, taking the clearing breath first, in through the nose, out the mouth. Inhaling sun breath. Exhale, swan dive. Coming halfway up, flat back. Exhale, fold. Ground the hands, step your way back to a plank that suits your constitution today. 8-point salute. Exhaling, knees find the ground, hips shuffle back. And on another out breath, lower down. Find that little pause moment and then release the legs. Hands are underneath the shoulders. We roll the chest open and maybe we lift. The gaze is down. Gently releasing, coming down to the mat, tucking the toes and finding your way through to downward facing dog. Pausing there for a moment. Gaze forward, step the feet through to the top of the mat, fold. Inhale, halfway up, flat back. Exhale, fold. Reverse the swan dive, reach and rise. Hands join as they melt their way down to the heart. Pause here. No. And we'll do one half salutation before we come into some warrior play. Inhaling, sun breath. Exhale, dive. Coming halfway up. And fold. Reverse your dive. Reach and rise. Hands to heart. Beautiful. So from here, I'm going to move from the top of my mat back, sending weight into my right foot. So I'm getting good and heavy on that right side of my body. Feet are still relaxed. There's a bend in that right knee, so I'm really starting to ground that energy into that right leg. Trying to get to that point where you feel stable enough that you can float that left leg pretty easily. And when you're ready, play with the possibility of lifting that leg, that left leg up, taking a big step in front of you. Maybe the arms come out to the side for a bit of extra balance, engaging through the core. And then you're going to take a step back with that left foot and let it land on a slight angle behind you. Right foot still pointing forward. And then we'll slowly bend into that right knee, just as far as the knee gets to the ankle. We don't want to go beyond that. Come out of it. Exhale, bending in. Inhale, pulling back. And this time we're going to sink. Gaze is forward. You might need to swivel that left foot in a little bit more. Making sure you feel stable. Might need to open up that right foot a little bit. Let's take the upward salute, inhaling, bringing the arms up and overhead if it's okay for the shoulders. Otherwise, gaze is forward and you're just finding somewhere else you could place your arms. Subtle lift in the pelvic floor. Bring the palms together overhead. With your exhale, bend into those elbows. Gaze is forward. So just like we were doing on the ground. Let's find that little pumping breath. We're going to do it 3 times through here. Inhaling. Slow release until you get near the end and then pump. Hold for a moment. Inhale. And all the way out. Find the pump at the bottom. Again, inhale. It's our last one. Slowly releasing as you inhale, the arms come up overhead. They come down to your side and they're going to go all the way around to the back, interlacing all of those fingers. Pull down. Exhale, hinge, fold forward over that right thigh, maybe pulling the hands away from the back. Inhale, pull the hands away from you, lift the left heel and step forward. Find stillness at the top of your mat. Closing the eyes. And in the stillness, feeling your body integrating all of that processing, all of that information. Relax your feet, your knees, just in case everything went a little awry and started to lock up again. And we'll come to repeat the sequence on the other side, slowly starting to bend into that left knee, weighting into that side of the body. Getting good and stable. Gaze is forward. And then you play with that right leg, getting very light. And when you're ready, picking up that right knee like you're taking a big step. Maybe the arms come out to the side for a bit of extra balancing support. Even if you have to tap the toe down and bring him back up, it's part of the practice. We're never perfectly stable. And then we'll take a big step back with that right foot, let it land with a slight angle, release the arms down to your side. Finding that orientation in the body where the hips are forward, left foot pointing forward, and we slowly bend in here, just as far as you can go without going beyond the ankle today, and pull out. Exhale, sink. Inhale, push back. And this time we sink in, chest is tall. If the upward salute is accessible, bring that in here. Make sure those toes of the left foot aren't grinding into the floor. With your next exhale, bring the palms together and bend into the elbows. Drop the hands behind the head. Chest is tall. Little lift of the pelvic floor. 3 cycles of that slow pumping breath in and out. Little squeeze at the end. Inhale. Exhaling. Last one. Inhaling, releasing the arms up overhead, bringing them down. Seeing if you can interlace the hands in the opposite direction. Draw down with those knuckles opening across the chest. And then exhale, hinge and fold forward over that left thigh, seeing if you can pull those hands away from your back. And your next exhale, hands pulling you up, coming to stand, push off of that right foot, step forward, find Tadasana. Let the hands rest in front of the low belly. Dropping back into that space of integration. Feeling some of the heat that's beginning to build. The inner fire, tapas. Take a nice deep breath in. Set it free. And we'll come to use flow to find our way down to the mat here. With your next inhale, sun breath, reach up and overhead. Maybe the gaze follows. Exhale, dive. Inhale, come halfway up, flat back. Exhale, fold. Bend into the knees, get those hands to the ground. Step your way back to plank. Maybe you need to go down dog to plank. And then we'll lower the knees, widen them, send the hips back towards the heels, child's pose. Making this child's pose your own. Get good and comfy for the next 3 or 4 deep cycles of breath. And little by little, we'll slowly peel ourselves out of child's pose. Gathering up block if you happen to have block. Otherwise, you can do this next piece using blanket or cushion as well and just folding it up so you've got a little bit of a thicker support. I'm going to do this with block today since I have it with me. And we're slowly going to lower ourselves down onto our backs on the mat. You can come at this with knees bent and slowly roll down, or you could do it with legs long. So working with what feels appropriate for you. And then we're down on our backs on the mat. Bring the feet to the ground if they weren't already there. Just taking in this supine position for a few moments. Our bodies tend to have this big rushing moment as we get on our backs. So we're just going to honor that transitory effect for a moment. And from here, grabbing hold of your support. In this case, I'm using the block. Bring it on its lowest edge. It's all we need right now. Heels a little bit closer in towards the buttocks. As you exhale, start to push into the heels. Squeeze the buttocks, lifting the hips high. Slide your support underneath you to the sacrum. That kind of triangular form of bones. Low back towards the tailbone. And your support should feel fairly non-invasive. So if something's a little niggly, adjust it. Please, please, please. Find that sweet spot. A moment for the body to adapt. And then we see about finding balance, bringing the knees in towards the chest. Maybe the hands come to the tops of the shins, or maybe they tuck in behind the knees. Whatever works for you. And from here, keeping the right knee braced towards your body, you'll slowly straighten up that left leg, letting it reach towards the ceiling. And we'll just point and flex the foot a couple of times. Roll through the ankle a few times in each direction. And then you'll flex into the foot so the toes are trying to reach towards your nose. As you start to breathe out, slowly lowering that left leg down towards the mat. Taking your time and really focusing on long, slow, deep breaths here. This helps to massage the hip flexors or the psoas chain of muscles. Lowering that leg to the point where you just feel your heel kiss the ground, and then you hover the leg. Take a full breath here. Inhale, begin to lift that left leg up. Almost like there's a little string tied to your big toe and somebody's reeling that leg back up to extension. Keeping the flex in the foot, we're going to do just a little external opening here. So that left leg will drop off to the left side. Your right knee will have to open away from you as a little counterbalance. We'll breathe here. If you'd like, you could take your left hand, place it to your inner thigh, and see if you can just release the groin and the inner thigh space a little bit more with some pressure. And then we'll slowly bring everything back to center. Bend into that left knee. Pause. Right leg slowly begins to extend as we keep the left knee anchored to the body. Point and flex through your right foot. Roll through the ankle a few times in each direction. And then we find that flexion, toes reaching towards the nose, slow journey as you start to release that right leg little by little down towards the ground. Remember those nice long deep breaths helping to massage the psoas. Heel eventually taps the ground, and then you hover the leg in place and take one full deep breath here. Beginning the journey in reverse, inhaling and starting to reel that leg back to extension. And we find that little opening, letting the right leg drop off to the side, opening that bent left leg as a counterbalance. And maybe that right hand comes to the inside of the right thigh for that extra little bit of pressure. Your next inhale, scooping everything back towards the middle. Bend into your right knee. Pause there. And either one leg at a time or both together, start to bring the feet back down towards the floor Returning to supported bridge. Take a moment there. With your next exhale, pushing weight into the heels, scooping up the hips up off your support. Slide it out, hover. Squeeze into your glutes, lift just a little bit higher. And then slowly release vertebrae by vertebrae, coming all the way down. Pausing when everything touches down. Marveling at all of the sensations that come rushing through your system. We'll do just a few passes of windshield wipers as a dynamic twist before we find Shavasana. So just letting those legs drop off one side to the other. And when you feel that movement has done its work, let yourself stretch out. Find a resting pose. And maybe the low back is tender and you need to keep feet to the ground. Knees just come to rest on top of one another. Maybe you tuck rolled or folded blanket underneath your knees for a little bit of support. Just finding what makes the utmost sense for you as you allow your body to begin to settle in. Finding stillness. And we'll do one more of those little pumping breaths just to set that energy free. Breathing in through the nose. Out through the nose. Getting near the end, squeeze. Hold the contraction in your body for a moment and then let it go. Everything softens. The body begins to relax. Breath returns to its natural ebb and flow. And you give yourself the permission to be here and be still for a little while. Just this. This breath, this moment, and letting all else go. Sounds of the bowl, bringing your awareness back in. As you start to breathe a little bit deeper and tap into your inner wisdom as you start to wiggle, to shake, to stretch and move. Just doing what's best for your body as you pull yourself out of that restful place. And gradually invite yourself back to a place of sitting where you once again recall that sensation of rooting down and rising up at the same time. Allowing for the hands to find their way home to heart. A moment to honor yourself for the courage and the willingness to step on the mat to practice today. As we offer thanks to all the puzzle pieces that fell into place to allow us to connect and practice. We offer a call for peace as we enter into this new calendar month, chanting Om Shanti 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 Om, and then the English spoken word peace 3 times. We offer peace towards ourselves first and foremost for our own inner worlds. We then offer peace to one another, friends, family, community, those that support us along the way. And the final peace we send out to the far reaches of the world. Clearing breath in and let it go. Finding sound. Om. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om, peace, peace, peace. I thank you all for your practice. Namaste.